It seems so long since I began searching. It's been a hard path to walk on, but I believed 100% in my cause. The Jedi Order has been all but destroyed, and it seems like there is very little hope left in the galaxy. As one of the last remaining Jedi after the slaughter of the Republic, I saw it as my duty to avenge the fallen and take down this empire. I aimed to train as many Jedi as I could to establish a powerful resistance and return hope to this galaxy. But I fear I may not be able to continue this journey. I traveled to many planets. I searched thoroughly, but it was no easy task to find any children of the Force. Due to the Jedi Code, finding a child of a former Jedi would have been near impossible, apart from some rare exceptions. Due to this, I feared finding a natural Force-sensitive individual would be improbable. It was a hard task, but I couldn't give up. And after searching many planets to no luck, I kept hope, but I couldn't help but feel doubtful. Eventually, on the planet of Telos, I came across a young bounty hunter by the name of Kyle. I met Kyle through unfortunate circumstances. You see, I didn't really come across Kyle, rather, he came across me. Kyle had been following me since I had left the previous planet I was on, Miriel, and was contracted along with many other bounty hunters to find me and kill me for a significant reward. This was a surprise, as I was on my lookout for Inquisitors but didn't think about bounty hunters. I suppose black robes and a red lightsaber wouldn't be necessarily cunning. After he found me, he was a decent shot, but he wasn't really any challenge to beat. After a short fight with the young opportunistic bounty hunter, I managed to disarm him and question him. I held him down with the Force. While using dirty tactics isn't exactly my thing, the threat of dismemberment with a lightsaber was the only thing to make him speak. He was always quite stubborn. I was almost at the end of questioning when I realized something. His gun was starting to move. I realized, and at that point I knew, despite the fact I don't really think he did. After destroying his gun, I let him go and explained to him what this could mean for him. I gave him a choice to leave, but I knew somehow he wouldn't. I think the reason he stayed and listened was because he probably could feel it. The Force. I remember feeling it too when I was younger, this overwhelming feeling and having no idea what it was. After this, we talked for a while. I explained the downfall of the Jedi Order, and he opened up about his previous life. He was a young adult and had lost both of his parents while they were caught in the crossfire of a resistance attempt against the Empire on his home planet. After that, he left and became a bounty hunter for credits. He had become pretty good at his job, years of odd jobs around several systems, before he was caught up with the Empire and was hired for some big hits. From what he told me, I could tell that he was in touch with the Force from before he started his career. All of those in his town were executed by the Empire, but he survived and got away. Things such as his successful career as a bounty hunter at such a young age, and the many times he had escaped almost certain death. Common sense could just tell that there was something there, something different. After a while of speaking, I offered him training. To begin with, he was reluctant. He was a bounty hunter and was afraid of the Empire. That's why he worked with them. But after some consideration, he agreed. From our talks, he obviously felt guilty by his actions. Several hits on those who didn't deserve it, contracted by the Empire. He was in a dark place, but he and I knew this could lead him to the light. At that point, he became my apprentice. We trained for several months. We were relatively safe and distant from the Empire in an undisclosed location on this planet. Kyle was learning and seemed quite promising. If only you could understand the relief when he began learning properly, using the Force, in a small way, but it showed that with more training, he would become more powerful and possibly a great Jedi. The force and endurance training was going along as expected. He struggled, but that was normal. Training Kyle reminded me of my time with Master Windu. I suppose this helped me further with the training. Knowing of his fate just angered me. I mean, I shouldn't be angered, but I was. Fortunately, I channeled this effectively and it furthered his training and my passion to do it. I tried to focus on force training, but of course he would need to learn how to handle a lightsaber. He struggled at first, but then became fantastic at deflecting blaster shots from a training droid. Eventually, I tried firing his own blaster at him, which he was of course nervous, but he deflected nearly every shot. Everything was looking promising. He actually seemed to enjoy this, and one day, he opened up to me and burst into tears. He told me that he felt that I was his only family, someone that he could trust, and he was thankful I took him in. He needed this, but he didn't know it. I loved the boy, and what would happen next kills me. I failed him. I should have been with him, but I wasn't. I sent him away to die. During a day of training, Kyle was progressing, and we finally came to the point in which he would construct his first lightsaber. He had always joked about how this was what he was looking forward to the most, and was adamant about purple. The day finally came, and that's what he chose. It was an elegant weapon, even better than my own, but it was sort of a gift. He felt like family to me now. He was like a little brother. But during the night, we were found. During training, we noticed some Imperial troops patrolling an area nearby. We hid and thought we were lucky. They were a fair distance away and it didn't seem likely they would have saw us, but they must have. They must have saw his lightsaber. I should have fled the temple with him, but I didn't. I thought we would be fine, but we weren't. We were awoken by the sound of TIE fighters and blaster shots. They were making their way through the abandoned temple we were situated at. We picked up our lightsabers. Without thinking, we fought back. I cut through many stormtroopers while always looking back at Kyle. He was doing great. Admittedly, he was so nervous, almost in tears with fright. But he was doing well. In some sick way, this was the training he needed. I deflected many shots, which landed back into the stormtroopers and put an end to them. Looking at Kyle, he was cutting through them like butter, using his young agility to his advantage. I threw my lightsaber at several stormtroopers at the door to the way out, and it cleared the path before landing back into my hand. We ran to the ship, worried it would be destroyed when we got there, but thankfully, it was intact. Several stormtroopers ran up, and I force-pushed them out of the way and told Kyle to get into the ship. He was reluctant to get in alone, but I told him he had to start it before more came. I would be a moment. But when he got in the ship, the Imperial forces retreated. I was confused for a moment, but then he appeared. An Inquisitor. At this point, I had to make a decision. Kyle just wasn't trained enough for a Sith, and if he stayed, the ship could be destroyed and both of us could be killed. So I told him to go and meet me in a small town called Kenmar on the planet of Jalukin, and that I'll know where to find him. He then fired up the engines and escaped while I stayed. I knew he could fend off Imperial forces before he landed there, and had faith he would be successful before I would find him. Now about the Inquisitor. This wasn't the first time I had fought one, and I was certain I could best him. We fought, clash after clash, orange against red. He was hard to best, but he made a mistake, and after 5 minutes of fighting, I broke his hilt and cut off his hand before impaling him with my lightsaber. After this, I stole a stormtrooper's armor and gun, then made my way to a local town, leaving the dead Sith behind. I'd been here for a while and occasionally made supply runs, so I spoke to a friend of mine and he managed to get me a decent deal on a ship. While I could have used some mind tricks to swindle my way onto a ship, I preferred to be more civilized and not give in to my desperation. After this, I quickly boarded the small ship and made my way to Jalukin. The next day, I landed on a small planet and made my way to the town. I abandoned the ship and had to walk a small distance. I didn't want to risk Imperial attention to my ship. While I walked, I tried to contact Kyle through my comlink, but nothing, just static. Either he broke it somehow, or maybe he lost it. At least, that's what I hoped. Before I got to the location, I noticed a crashed ship and a few Imperial troops surrounding it. This couldn't be. He would never crash a ship. He was more skilled than this. I walked up to the stormtroopers and told them, "You will leave this ship alone and walk into town." And they responded,
"We will leave this ship alone and walk into town."
And so they did. I initially checked the ship and looked to see if he had survived. Maybe he had escaped. I realized that there was nothing in there. He must have fled. I almost felt relief before I turned around and noticed the ditch just in front of the wreckage. Inside was the corpse of a dead Padawan. I started to panic and ran down to his corpse. He had been cut straight in half by what must have been a lightsaber, which could have quite possibly been his own. His corpse left me in silence for what felt like hours, but was really seconds. Inside, the emotions built up. Anger, frustration, regret. It was all too much. I failed him. I couldn't handle any more of this. After the Clone Wars and Order 66, more death by the hands of the Empire. Except this time, it was Kyle. He was so promising. I was so stupid. I should have stayed with him, but I didn't. As I broke down, the Imperial troops came from all corners. The missing comlink suggested it must have been a trap. I picked up the lightsaber of the dead Padawan and let out all my anger. I ignited both lightsabers and cut down stormtrooper after stormtrooper. I channeled my anger into both lightsabers. I shouldn't let the anger get the better of me, but it was over. I had lost. More stormtroopers came, and I cut the orange and purple lightsabers through them as they came running. I threw the orange lightsaber through many while I battled others with the purple. After getting through many, I was exhausted, and I was shot in the stomach. I began to flee into town and ran into one of the houses after having Kyle's saber shot out of my hand. I got into the house and locked the door and turned off all the lights. I tried to heal myself while the stormtroopers bashed through the doors of neighbors. At that point, I waited. I would heal, fight, and then flee back in my ship. After this, I won't put any of our lives in danger. And now here I am, waiting to flee. If any Sith come looking for me, I will be sure to try my best to fight them, and then flee. I should not have gotten involved in that kid's life. I should have left him after the fight and escaped the planet while he kept up work for the Empire. At least then, he would have lived. I suppose this is a warning to all Jedi. I should have listened to Obi-Wan. I should have stayed hidden and decided to wait for a new hope instead of trying to create one. My message is, if you try to create new Jedi, either stick by them or consider not training them at all. I underestimated the power of the Empire, and I advise you to not do the same. They are coming up to my door, and oh my god, it can't be. They sent him? This changes things. I can't do this. He's too powerful. I'd always heard about him, like a myth, but I'd never encountered him. It's Vader. Oh my god, he must have killed Kyle, and he will probably get to me too. I can't win this. This is it. My name is Kellen Carew, and I can't guarantee I will make it through this. If this is the end of me, please be careful. I advise you to not do what I have done, and instead, There's been word of an organized rebellion. Find that and try your luck there. You have little to no chance on your own. They are almost here, and I promise I will go out fighting. For the Jedi, for Kyle, for this fallen order. Please be careful, and may the Force be with you, always.